Yeah, we can get started. Okay, thank you, Kunal, for this opportunity for me to do moderate this panel, and it's really a pleasure to engage with my colleagues who are contributing in their own way to increase the credibility of IT by way of doing various things, and also building high security, high information security environment for the business. So if we can start with my own small commentary and some small introduction on what we are discussing today, is that see over a period of last 3 years or 4 years, security has been taking center stage and boardroom discussion. Two important things have happened. One is that the ransomware attack is becoming more and more predominant in the discussions, and second is that the COVID situation has led to work from home environment, and we are always used to do a physical meeting, physical discussion, even within the periphery of the IT and setup that we have. We still had a lot of concerns with respect to security, and now with operating from home, how the things will span out. More and more people working from remotely is a way to go. There is no way we can avoid it. External threats are increasing, and the newer threats are coming. The technology adoption by way, whether it is IoT or blockchain or whatever, they are bringing in various challenges. So given this background, I would like to start with Mr. Rao, Prabhakar Rao, asking us to, at the basic level, how are you now looking at, we will of course come to the deeper points in terms of various technologies and the change management aspects and all. So how you are looking in that go, you are looking at information security, and how important it is for your customers board in your own way, if you can explain us.
Sorry, yeah, I was on mute. So I think not a single day passes without us thinking about the security aspect. Okay, you start the day and you end the day with the security aspects nowadays. I mean, the focus on cybersecurity has become very, very important day in and day out. It has only multiplied with the COVID, because we realize that the boundaries are no longer the office or our plant premises or the network premises, okay, or the perimeter is not the network alone, okay. So it has become a boundaryless kind of thing, so you have the perimeter is much more virtual now, okay. So you have a lot, and it is extended, it has gone beyond our this one. So finally, what it has boiled down is that, most importantly, the devices, multiple devices are there, multiple devices are getting connected, multiple users are getting connected, multiple endpoints are there. So we need to ensure that, the endpoints are thoroughly protected, okay, internally. Okay, we have to take care of, just as, just as the COVID precautions that we are taking, we have to see, finally we have to maintain safe distance, we have to wear our masks and sanitize ourselves. On the same lines, we have to keep our endpoints sanitized. We have to have the antivirus or anti-malware protected to the systems or the endpoints. And then, keep watching, keep, kind of scrutinizing our firewalls, everything, for the kind of any threats and other aspects that are there. Okay, so I think, it's a parallel, and most importantly, we have to educate all our users to ensure that, they do what they are supposed to do, and they don't do what they are not supposed to do. Okay, so I think awareness is the key, and that is the crux of it.
Thank you for briefly summarizing in a nutshell as to what what we all are looking at in terms of information security. Govind, if I can come to you and request you to share your perspective on this and how you are looking at security and how important it is for you and your board and your customers.
Thanks, Vilas. So at USV, we typically are taking security on a risk-based approach. Whenever we get into a project or an initiative which is organization-wide or a function specific, we go for a risk matrix preparation, which typically provides us a high-level information around, okay, what am I exposing internally or externally, and what this can lead to in terms of various aspects. Like it can be a ransomware, it can be a network periphery thing, or it can be an endpoint related thing, for example. And basis that, because security, Vilas, it cannot be a one shot and one solution approach. Layered approach has to be adopted at various levels. And then basis the risk matrix that we arrive at, typically we take a grounds up approach in terms of having security embedded at various levels of the project, let it be implementation or operations. So that overall, so as part of typically at IT, we take care of functional requirements and we take care of technical requirements. So here we are nowadays, since last 3-4 years, we take along with technical requirements, security related requirement also gets documented, and all the vendor ecosystem, let it be partners or OEMs, we typically give them, okay, these are the risks that we perceive, and from their experience also, we demand for certain inputs, and then that way we try to approach security requirements also in an initiative which then sort of takes care of 70 to 80% of the coverage. But of course, it's an ongoing thing. Prabhakar touched upon the user awareness and other things also, and as the technology is changing, I'm sure and because nowadays we are operating from remote also, so of course the hacker community and certain other groups, they will keep on posting us the challenges to overcome, I think. That's my perspective.
Thank you for this. And now, as we look at the security, as you have also highlighted, and Prabhakar also highlighted, is that it's a 360-degree view. Like you talked about the technology, you talked about people, you talked about process, etc. So as we keep looking at the various technology, the technologies which you look at are the multiple vectors which are there, and we look at hybrid cloud environment that we have. So the variants are many, variations are many, the complexities are many. So in that situation, how you look at Govind, I'm asking this question to you now as to how you look at in terms of the technologies prioritization, because at the end of the day, the board doesn't give you full budget as to whatever you go and spend. There's a priority that we will have to assign to various things. So you have multiple technologies available, and so far in your experience and what you're doing, so what kind of priorities are you assigning to various technologies that are in front of you based on this experience that you have in terms of handling the information security in USV?
Just a minute. You'll have to excuse me for a minute. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I think you posted a question around specific technologies.
And how do you prioritize those technologies based on your experience, and how are you actually doing it? And you did not name the brands or whatever. Basically, we are looking at the technologies because there are different levels of technologies.
Yeah. So typically, uh, perimeter technologies like recently, of course, we switched over to the enterprise level firewall. Say, so there are certain things got addressed. I would say things like uh, enterprise level VPN to start with, or forming of security groups and role groups, those sort of things. For the applications which are being onboarded, we ensure each and every application that we adopt is delivered with an enterprise level SSO. There again, we have an enterprise wide SSO policy now, and identity and access management solution is in place. So those sort of technologies have been onboarded in last couple of years. And that the IAM also is ensuring whenever an employee is getting onboarded, his entire life cycle is being embedded with the applications that he is using during his life cycle. Let the promotions, the transfers, and the exits, all those things are being synced with the IAM solution. Of course, the SSLs or having the security audit or security program, annual security program for the organization in terms of the audits or the VAPTs being performed for various applications. So those sort of things have come in. And of course, there is a compliance piece whenever we go for a SaaS-based application or a cloud-based application. So there, how that SaaS platform or the cloud vendor is compliant with certain benchmarks, like SOC 2 certificate being demanded for managing the customer data, for example, or how the overall security, whether the application or the service provider, whether he is following ISO 27001 related processes, whether he is having those certificates. So these are some of the things which come into the discussion, and we ensure that the compliance is being followed or the security aspects are put in place while selection of any technology that comes in across to us.
Thank you, thank you. So, Mr. Rao, Govind has touched upon various aspects. What some areas like I could look at you elaborate is one. What perimeter level, we do take care of various things that we do, but you are aware that the threats are coming from, of course, inside, but I'm now focusing on outside threats which are coming, the ransomware attack, phishing attacks and all. How do we proactively and prevent, look at in advance as to how do I prevent this? Because prevention is better than cure. So we will have to have a strict watch on who is accessing your network, how they are coming, what they are playing around with and all. So what kind of technologies do you look at to address that kind of threats the people, the organizations have today? And as you are aware, these threats are increasing, and monitoring is going to be expensive. So how do you optimize? Because if there is nothing happening and I just keep on monitoring, there is a waste of time. And I just take a nap and somebody hits me. So there is a kind of situation that we are in today, cat and mouse game. So how do you handle that situation of optimally monitoring in a way you don't have any mishaps?
It's a very difficult question to answer. And it's like, sometimes I look at the CRPF guys at the airport, they frisk millions of passengers. And one guy, one black sheep does all the damage, right?
Yes.
So I don't think so. See, you have to watch. So I don't think so we can avoid that. Okay, so the watching has to be done. The kind of you need to monitor it continuously. There's no, I don't think so. There's a second thought on that. Having said that, I think the quote that says, security is good only till the time it is broken. It is said that the security is good till the time it is broken. Okay, so till that time it is good. I mean, so basically, you have to always be monitoring the things, and I don't think so. There's a second option to that. Okay, so you have to monitor it, and you have to kind of thwart every attempt that comes across. That is one thing. Second thing is, well, all technology tools and all that will come. We can always, kind of the one thing is, we are just as we are getting vaccinated, we have to see that we have our latest patches available on the system. The firewalls have to be updated, okay, to thwart any kind of attacks. That is one thing. People is the most important thing. Awareness and the people are the most important thing. Okay, so that is one more thing that we have to ensure that the awareness levels are high for the people, and technology will do its job in terms of kind of eliminating some of the threats, known signatures, etc. It will eliminate it, or the advanced threat protection can be done, and the zero day attacks and all that, to some extent they'll get addressed. But nevertheless, I think we have to be on the watch. People have to be aware what they're clicking and what they're kind of opening, and that's the main thing that has to be done.
So carrying on with you, Mr. Prabhakar Rao, the always we have this situation where people say zero trust. When you can't trust anybody, so that is the kind of situation that we'll have to believe that that is the way to go. Otherwise, there is no way we can have a confidence that we'll be able to do, because one small guy, as you pointed out, will can create havoc in situation. At the same time, it's very you keep on monitoring and you keep on checking, and you whatever you can do, you will be doing the management. And you also know the fact that still there could be some hit, like the zero-day attacks, whatever. At the same time, the management is expecting, the board is expecting that having done what all you are saying and having given the budgets what all you are asking for, how do I have 100% trust that and I'm safe? So it's a question of there is a dilemma that we have. How do we it's not a question of not building the solution to that direction. You definitely would be doing whatever is required to do that, but how do you give the board the confidence that we are safe? How do you bring in this concept of 100% trust to the board?
I don't think so we can give 100%. I think let's be practical about it. Okay, so it is bravado saying that I'm 100% safe. Okay, because we don't know. Okay, I mean, it's not right to give that kind of a confidence also. The confidence can be given that we are kind of padding ourselves well. Okay, that's a confidence that can be given. Okay.
Right. Well, aptly said. You have so the board, of course, what they can expect anything. The as a realistic and practical IT professional, you have what you have identified. What you have highlighted is that we are doing everything. We are planning ourselves well, but still there could be some 0.1% scope for that. But the easiest thing that you can do is definitely the zero trust kind of thing. So the kind of policies that you can move, you can build around the security policies, and know whether it is CEO or whether it is the director, no deviation from the policies. How are you implementing that in a large organization like NATCO?
Okay, so well, I think we are just to sum it up, I will say that we are padding ourselves well. Okay, without giving much details in terms of what products and all that. Okay, so I think, we are doing a job in terms of, the necessary VAPTs or, awareness levels, etc. Okay, that's what we are doing.
Okay.
So, right.
So, Mr. Govind, you mentioned about the risk matrix that you work out as with various projects, and also continuous assessment of risk that you have mentioned. You also mentioned about the VAPT things. See, one black cat in this whole game is the user, because external we are doing everything and all. So Govind, if you can highlight how are you addressing the change management within the organization in terms of bringing the security on the top of the agenda of everyone in the organization, because it's very difficult to get them to get adjusted to that kind of environment. There is one, and also continuously keeping that in mind that the information security is a challenge for the organization, and everybody has to participate in ensuring that we address the challenge well. So I'm now talking about the people front and the people aspect.
So, Vilas, we are trying to address these via two avenues. First, whenever, at least at the corporate level to start with, we have started. Whenever a new employee joins in, as part of his induction program, we are trying to educate him about the organization's information security policies. See, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, what are the kind of enterprise level systems that we are using, and what he needs to ensure and conduct his behavior in a way that his awareness and his execution will not pose any information security related threat to the organization. And we do ensure that the kind of content that we are providing to our training and learning management team, we keep on updating that. That's the first avenue. Second avenue, of course, is as part of our training calendar schedule. We are conducting certain quarterly trainings with respect to the information security policies of the organization, wherein either some internal information security person or an external specialist, I would say, comes along during those trainings, and they are trying to conduct certain trainings throughout the organization. And this we have incorporated as part of our trainings calendars. These are the two ways by which we are trying to address the people related aspects.
Okay. So coming to the area of the multi-factor authentication, because while you have taken care of this awareness parts and all, Govind, I'll continue with you on this. Identity is becoming a challenging situation, because you have multiple devices from where the user can log in, and multiple locations from where the user can log in, and there are multiple ways one can log in. So your security multi-factor authentication mechanism that you are putting should take care of all the situation, that because it's omni-channel situation that we have, users are demanding. So how good you push these things for even whether a desktop or a laptop or a or a mobile or a iPad, or are these tabs that are there, and also coming through cloud. So what are some of the highlights that you can share with us, what you have taken to ensure that the identity is properly validated, because there is an entry point for problem.
There are two ways to look at this, Vilas. Wherever possible, we are ensuring that rather than providing the users, if the users are within the organization's periphery, that is perimeter, the inside users. In fact, we are ensuring that their user experience has to be seamless. And that's why rather than multi-factor, we have a multi-factor MFA approach also, but I would say for only privileged accounts in particular, where there are certain key accounts or key administrators which are being deployed, and the access can be critical in nature. There we are ensuring okay, here we need that added layer of security through a MFA where the user has something and then he knows the password also, he has something, and then we need to also identify whether the user is himself or not. So there we have a MFA approach. Again, we have a sort of MFA approach wherein the users are trying to access an enterprise system from the outside, or the users are typically outside the perimeter of the organization. So it's a mix and match approach when it comes to MFA. For the users inside, in fact, we are trying to give him a seamless experience, a good user experience, wherein we are trying to support him with SSOs, wherein he don't have to take care of multiple passwords, per to say, and he's using multiple applications becomes a secure as well as good, provides him with a good user experience. So it's a balanced approach for us, but for certain admin related or certain, I would say, critical systems or privileged users, we have multi-factor being adopted.
Thank you. Mr. Rao, I will come to you now on one important point that is being now discussed is the data privacy. Okay, so everybody will be very worried about their own data and all. You are running a large organization where you have all the kinds of stakeholders, whether it is known associates, customers, vendors. So how critical is data privacy now getting for organization like yours, and what kind of compliance challenges you see going ahead? Mr. Rao.
So yeah, I think the awareness on the privacy and the legislations pertaining to that are very important, and I think I think this has to sink into for everyone, okay, across the company, across organizations, about the importance of privacy, okay. Well, I think the data has to be protected, and we have to demonstrate that this kind of data is being protected properly, okay. Not only for within India, but even for the other geographies that we deal with, okay. So I think this kind of awareness and the concern, or the architecture for protecting the privacy data, what is privacy, what data is private, has to be understood, and then the architecture, and then the paraphernalia that are required to see that this kind of data is protected has to be kind of formulated and kind of instituted across all the organizations. I think the awareness is the key, and first is the definition of what is privacy data, okay. What kind of data is private, like not only, generally I'm saying, not pertaining to NATCO, but I see, PAN numbers keep floating around. Okay. Even if you have to apply for a simple data card, you need to give the Aadhaar card. And who is taking the Aadhaar card. Okay. So, some representative from the company will come and take the Aadhaar card details. So there's a long way to go as far as we have to understand what is private and what should be shared and what should not be shared. In fact, the organizations who are asking for this data have also need to understand whether they should ask this data or not. Simple data card, you need to give the Aadhaar card, which is very dangerous.
Yes.
So I think I am feeling very small to talk about the privacy thing, because there's a huge problem around. So whatever my comments will be very minuscule on that, because the problem is a very big problem.
Yeah, correct. So one relevant point that you have been, you will also come to Govind on the same point after you. One point that was always a concern for pharma industry CIO specifically is that as the usage of IT is continuously increasing, the audits, when we handle audits, they always come with the with the point of suspension, and of course we have taken enough measures to ensure that the data integrity is well maintained and all, and of late do you see security, information security as one of the points of audit, and also there are concerns expressed by the auditors, and there is a huge amount of penetration or interrogation or investigation by them as to how the organizations are handling this, and that can become more problem going ahead.
So, I think with the advent during the 2020 and 2021, with the audits becoming more virtual, okay, when it was in-person audits, it was kind of, they always come with the magnifying lens, okay. Now with the virtual audits, the lens has become bigger also, okay. So I think I would say that definitely they are looking at how the data is being generated, etc. These are general questions which will definitely come in the case of any auditor for that matter. Okay, so yes, I think the intensity has kind of I would say that there is a variation in the intensity. Okay, they would like to go into more depth, and I think things can be kind of shared in a virtual mode. That is one thing. The other thing I wanted to talk about the data integrity part that you mentioned. Okay, and I think while Mr. Govind was talking about it on the two-factor authentication. Okay, two-factor authentication. The topic has come from the point of the security point of view. It is actually well entrained in the case of the data integrity also. Okay, we need to have two-factor authentication, or at least we need to authenticate who is the person who's doing the transaction. Okay, so it is very much relevant, and I do see a lot of the convergence of the data integrity and the information security aspects. Okay, so which is good for the industry. I think there's we are not working on two different things. It is actually finally culminating into the common forum. Okay.
Thank you.
So
yeah, please go ahead.
So I think this will actually strengthen the data integrity aspects also. Okay. So typically two-factor authentication is what you have and what you are kind of thing. Okay. So and what you know. Okay. So the password or the authentication mechanisms. So use any of those two, and then you have the you have a firm authentication of the user who has done the transaction.
Thank you. So Govind, two points came out during this discussion. One is, of course, I talked about the audits, security becoming part of the audit, because otherwise there were many other aspects of audit, and this is one more added angle which is getting us. Also, because of this virtual audits, the magnifying glass has become bigger. So how do we address these challenges? Because one is what we are doing, and second is giving their confidence to the auditors as to what we are doing is right, and it is in the interest of the data integrity and the information security that we are talking about. So what do you see going ahead, more such challenges coming up specifically in view of the IoT, the IoT being adopted, and OT IT integration becoming more and more predominant? How do we see the future coming up in this case?
Yeah. So Vilas, when it comes to pharma in particular, all of us are aware of the fact how the data integrity aspects and the seriousness towards the data integrity provided by the auditors in last few years have in fact made us become more mature when it comes to data integrity aspects and information security aspects. Again, part of it is to do with the organization-wide data integrity policies that we deploy. And make each and every user and stakeholder aware of that policy at some juncture during the year. The extended part of it, the data integrity aspects are also leading the industry towards adoptions of more automated systems like MES, LIMS, wherein the raw data cannot be left as it is. The raw data enters from an equipment to an enterprise-wide application in an automated way rather than a manual way, so that the possible areas where the data integrity aspects can happen, they can be done away with in an automated manner. But of course, all said and done, we cannot have, and of course, we know that many of our plants or the technologies that we use cannot be upgraded just like that. So the data integrity aspects are important, and a lot of 483s have been allotted by the FDA authorities to various pharma players now. And we try to address that through automation, data integrity policies. And with the new technologies like distributed ledgers or IoTs, and in fact, those aspects are going to go into greater details, and each of the system providing detailed audit trails. And of course, not only providing the audit trails being backed up properly by the IT administrators. And they need to be also made available wherever they are required in a timely manner. So again, the base core backup and restoration policies of the organization with respect to data integrity also will have to be strengthened, still multifold, I think. That's the way it is.
Thank you. See, it's really heartening to see the kind of the things that we are doing in the pharma industry to ensure information security, because it's one of the important industry from as a country as a whole. We are looking pharma industry as one of the biggest contributor in terms of the forex and also the business that also helped in COVID environment. The pharma industry came up and help the whole country and to ensure that we are delivering whatever is required for healthcare of our people. And in these situations, at the same time, managing the information security very well, while giving the flexibility to the users, at the same time maintaining the security. We talked about zero trust, and also we are also practical, as Mr. Rao has mentioned. It's very we can't give that 100% assurance to the board saying we have done everything, so you need not worry, go and sleep. We are always padded, but we'll have to keep our fingers crossed. The things like VAPT and other things that we have been doing, and the newer things which are coming, the blockchain, the IoT, OT, IT integration, IoT adoption and all, as you mentioned, Govind, correctly, the logging. In fact, as you have identified correctly, the newer technologies will probably give more confidence to the auditors, because everything is available upfront, and also it is backed up with proper identification, authentication. And Mr. Rao spoke about the role of what we talk in terms of security, the multi-factor authentication, identification. It also plays a larger role in data integrity when it comes to the giving confidence to the customers and also the auditors is concerned. So it's very interesting. It has been very interesting discussion, and thank you all of you for participating actively in the discussion and sharing your thoughts. I'm now handing over back to Raj to take it further. Thank you.
Again, I'll give it to technology, this excuse, not to me. Well, thank you so much, Vilas, Govind and Prabhakar. I think you all have been amazing having this panel discussion. I'm sure our fellow members have gained a lot of information from here. And for everyone, we all are there on the platform. Please come and connect with us. Once again, let's give a round of applause to our moderator and all the panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With